Hello, I'm Gary Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. My guest today is the multi-talented Caryn Richman, actress, singer, and teacher. She is best known for her role as Gidget in the TV series The New Gidget, and as Nora Brady on The Bradys. Caryn also rocked the stage as Sandy in the Broadway production and the national tour of Grease. But her talents don't stop there. She's also an amazing teacher and has created an after-school performing arts program for young kids. Don't go away. I'll be right back with the dynamic Caryn Richman. Welcome to the show, Caryn.
Thank you, Gary. I finally get to speak with you on this beautiful platform that you have. Thank you.
You know, we have a lot of crisscrosses, but I'm so glad we finally got to connect. And, you know, when I was reading a lot about your background, you are so diverse in so many things, which is so inspiring because, you know, a lot of actors, they don't have different venues, but you not only act, you sing, but you do this amazing program. What inspired you as a little girl growing up in New York? What was the inspiration that drove you? Was it a person that you said, I want to be like them? And I know you were starting out you wanted to be a social worker, but how did the acting sort of start?
Well, first of all, I think like so many other young dreamers of my generation, I grew up with the Barbra Streisand musicals. And when I saw Funny Girl, I actually remember going to my first Broadway show, which was Lauren Bacall on Broadway. So that ages me completely. I'm, been around a long time. I remember seeing her on stage and thinking, oh, I want to be that. I want to do that. But it was so unreachable for, a little Long Island girl, just living out her sweet life. And I would literally pick up my hairbrush and pretend I was singing on Broadway, or Barbra Streisand singing her songs from Funny Girl. Oh my goodness, do you hear that plane outside? Forgive me, it sounds like we're being attacked for a moment. I hope that's not reading in the studio. So the dream at the time was just a fantasy. It was, wow, what I wouldn't give to do that, but it seemed very far out of reach. It just wasn't something that was going to happen. I was, growing up in a traditional family, I was expected to go to college and do all the traditional things and get married and make a difference in the world, which is also what I hope to do. But at some point, my junior year in college, they were having an open call on Broadway for the Broadway show Grease. And I heard that you get to stand on the Broadway stage when you audition. That is all I needed to hear. I was going down there. So to make a very long story short, Gary, I know we don't have a lot of time and I'm rambling on. I went to that open call. I finally got to audition. For those of your viewers who don't know what that means, in the old days, they would have sort of a cattle call, they called it, where people would line up down the street and anybody could audition. And when it came my turn, I walked out onto that Broadway stage. I was in complete awe. I sang, I said a few lines that they asked me to, and then I went back up to college.
What did you sing? What was your audition piece?
I think that I wish I remembered, because I don't remember specifically. I'm going to guess that I sang It's Raining on Prom Night.
Okay, cool. I played Danny Zuko in a production here years ago, and I had seen Mary Lou, and I'd gone to they did the Broadway rehearsal where everybody who was ever in it was in Hollywood, and they had Olivia Newton-John was there, and Travolta, and everybody was there, whoever did it. I'm sure you were there. Were you there maybe? It was.
Well, what year are you talking about?
This was in the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was.
And
it was, yes, at the Pantages where everybody was rehearsing, and I would drop Mary Lou off, and then I went in and saw some of like Eileen Christian was there, all the people who had ever done Grease, and you were there, and I was there, but Mary Lou was doing Taxi, and I remember it. So I always wanted to do it, and I would always audition singing those magic changes. And then
it was the duty song.
Yes. And then I finally got it. And then Mary Lou came to see me. It was a production here in LA, but it was the most enjoyable thing, Grease. I think for anybody who hasn't seen it, it still holds up today. And there's
especially this. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Especially the original show. And
correct.
It's 2 years ago. It was the 50th anniversary, and we all gathered in New York in Sardi's with Tom Moore.
Yes, Tom was on the show. He goes to my gym. I saw him the other day. He's just back from France. But yeah, Tom did the show. A lot of alumni have done the show, so it's great. So that's why when I heard you were Sandy, I go, oh my God.
I was sort of jack of all trades for a while in the show. I understudied Patty, Marty, Sandy, finally got to play Sandy on tour and on Broadway. But it was one of those things where I did an absolute, 180. I was going to school for social work and psychology. All of a sudden, there was this possibility of doing my first love. And it was one of the greatest lessons of my life that hopefully you don't compromise. We get this, as far as we know at the moment, we get this life. What are we going to do with it? Did you find,
Caryn, when you finally started really moving forward and working and doing a lot of shows, that you started to emotionally feel more confidence? And I know the actor's life is creative, but I know that there's always moments where, you're not working, and then all of a sudden there's a lull period, and then a lot of people get depressed, a lot of people, lose their mind. What was your sort of safety net that brought you out of that or got you through those difficult times?
That is a really good question, Gary. And I know we all have different ways and psychological makeups. I think for me, I was blessed enough to always have a positive attitude. Maybe that's why I played all of these sweet, wholesome characters all my life, or for most of my life until recently. I think I loved the process so much so that I didn't see the win as only getting the job, although it's so hard not to do that. I have so much compassion, and I myself have trouble at times. But in general, if everything is viewed as an opportunity to get to do what I love, then the audition is part of that. I get to audition, or I get to go to an acting class, or I get to read a script by myself, and just say it out loud. And now we have phones so we can film ourselves doing all kinds of acting exercises and all of that. And so the job was sort of the icing on the cake. And don't misunderstand me, getting the job is the greatest gift always in the process. Not the greatest gift, but the reward, because then we really do get to do what we love. But I think there has to be a way of looking at it. And I'm guessing it's a life perspective of not taking the rejection personally if you possibly can, and realizing there's enough to go around, the sense of abundance. I don't know. I certainly can't get on a soapbox and preach as to how anyone should get through it, but I can only say that I was blessed enough to work enough that I didn't have enough of that feeling early on. And that really helped me continue along, so that when I finally did hit a bit of a wall in my 40s, I had to adjust and just keep joy coming into my life, as corny as that might sound. And I know that you made the transition into, you were playing a lot of fun roles. You were playing Gidget. What was that like to all of a sudden had to be happy and we have the picture up where you were in the bathing suit all the time. Oh, what I wouldn't do for that body 40 years later. My gosh. I mean, when you got Gidget, was it because it was syndicated, so a lot of people saw you everywhere.
Was it like, I mean, do people stop you on the street and go, Gidget, Gidget? Or was that happening?
Yes, they do. The show itself was an interesting idea by Columbia Picture Studio to produce a television show that was strictly for syndication, meaning we were not a network show. So every city, we were on a different channel. If we were on Channel 5 here in LA, I think we were on Channel 9 in New York. Excuse me, New York. So it was a very strange way to produce a show, but very cost effective. It wasn't as big a hit as we had hoped, but I will tell you, it was truly the most fun, joyful, cheery, silly show. We were at the beach, we were up and wacky, and we were almost a live action cartoon. The energy, the colors, the time. And there was that ever optimistic, character trait of Gidget, which just, there was always a happy ending. And if there wasn't, grab your surfboard and that'll solve all your problems.
Exactly.
So,
and then you went on to the soap. That must have been from Gidget Happy to the Bradys. You played Greg Brady's wife. What was that all like? You were playing all these. I mean, that's the great thing about acting is you can play so many diverse roles. What was did you prefer the happy roles or the Laura Fenmore role on Young and the Restless?
I had actually done a soap for a few years before Gidget.
Texas.
Which was called Texas. Very short-lived, again, unfortunately. It was a spin-off of Another World on NBC. And the reason I bring that up is I really felt like I cut my teeth on that soap. And for many young actors, you're, thrown in with pages of dialogue and there's changes happening all the time. And you don't get a lot of chances to do your actual takes. So you have to be quick on your feet. And I was god-awful when I started that soap. When I look back, I cringe. But by the end, I saw myself sort of transition to feeling a bit more confident. And, on soaps, you're kidnapped, you're on drugs, you're crying every other day, you're a mess. So you get very, pliable is maybe that's not the right word, but you get adept at being able to pull tricks out of your bag so that you know how to get to certain emotions. So then I did Gidget, then I did the Brady Bunch, and then I got to fill in for the beautiful Tracy Bregman.
Who's done the show also. I know Tracy for years.
She's exquisite.
So when you finally said, okay, I want to play serious roles, and I think if you can do comedy, you can do serious, like drama. Was there a sense of, now I got my feet wet?
I think I honestly always feel more comfortable with drama. I think that part of the human condition that suffers and that carries sadness, for me, is quite often at my fingertips, I feel. So the comedy, I'm sure you've heard other actors say this, the comedy is often much harder. And for me personally, I am more naturally drawn to drama. But I think because the facade, was always perky and sweet and girl next door, I was cast more in the lighter, sweet comedy. I don't even know if we would consider I guess the Brady Bunch is comedy. I think the joy of where I am today, years later, having ridden the roller coaster of this wonderful and challenging career, is that I no longer am the ingenue. And I say that with a certain amount of pride because the roles that I've gotten to play, not so much in the Christmas movies, those are a bit more older, Gidget kind of sweet mama roles, sometimes grandma roles, but I've also had the chance to do roles that I never would have been cast in when I was younger. Thrillers, and I'm the killer, and I'm trafficking young kids in a movie, or I'm a fabulously eccentric psychic in a horror film that scared the crap out of me. And these are roles that I'm so grateful that I get to keep being asked to come play. And so, yeah, these are very long answers to your very short question.
Caryn, what would you say your ritual is that you do now that keeps you on track? Do you meditate? Do you exercise? Do you eat a certain diet? What's the secret to your longevity?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I'm not sure how to answer it because it changes.
Mm-hmm.
I always had a level of absolute fear right before, a director would yell action, or especially in theater, standing backstage, that feeling of, oh my God, I cannot mess this up. There was like so much pressure. So I think I would answer your question by saying I have found a way of working now that is more calm, and I just think it's based more on life experience. I'd like to say that I exercise up a storm and eat perfectly, but I don't. I go in and out of that because I realize it's important. But I do really try to focus myself and then take the pressure off. I have something that I read before I do anything. And it's the gist of it is saying, you're not being judged. This is not, you're not proving yourself here. You are an artist expressing yourself. So go out and make it you and realize it doesn't matter what's out there and that judgment. This is your opportunity to express yourself. I am paraphrasing this terribly, so it doesn't sound particularly profound. But when I read the words, it reminds me that even with auditioning, if I take the pressure off of, I need this job, I want this job is amazing, and just say, I get to do what I love. I get to do in this moment, even if someone is not handing me a paycheck, I get to act. It's always amazing to me because I can't, painters can paint alone, poets can write their beautiful words, writers. Many of us get to do the art form that they love on their own. And with actors, you actually need either another person or a monologue that I suppose you can do on yourself, but you need the community to really do the process. When I try to just ground myself.
Excellent. Answer these one-word questions with a one-word answer. What does love mean to you?
The first word that came to mind is open heart. One word, open.
Okay, open. How about what does God mean to you?
Freedom.
How do you want to be remembered when you leave this lifetime? When they say Caryn Richman was, what would you like people to know about you?
Kind.
If you could go back into history and talk to somebody and ask them a question, who would that be?
My dad.
What would you ask him?
Oh, it makes me tear up. Sorry. It's not as much asking. I'm so sorry that I'm getting emotional. It would be more to tell.
Okay.
And I would, oh my God, Gary, I would want to tell him that I understand what and how he was trying to guide me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't at the time.
Excellent.
And he died before I could express that. But now, as an adult, I desperately want him to know that I get it.
He knows. Spirit never really dies. They know. So he's watching you. He's happy. So
I am so sorry.
that's the one thing. You know, Caryn, I could speak to you all day. Our time is up.
Oh no, I wanted to ask you things. Okay.
But we'll continue this in person. And I just wanted to wish you all the best. You're doing the Hallmark movies now, and you have this after school program for the performing arts, which is brilliant. And I'm just so proud of you that you continue to be perpetual motion and you just keep going and you must never give up. And there's something big coming to you. I can feel it. There's some big project. I don't know what it is, but my feeling is something's going to blow your socks off soon.
Yay.
Yay.
From your mouth to God's ears. And Gary, I know we have no time, but I just want to thank you for sharing your spirit and your energy with your viewers, with your friends, with me. I'm very grateful. We've only crossed paths, but I feel drawn, and I appreciate that power that you have. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Caryn, and you'll be back. And
because I have more to talk about, and I don't want to just talk about acting. There's so much more to life.
Exactly. Part 2.
Okay, I love it. Gidget returns.
Yes. Yes, the sequel. We'll do a sequel. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Gary Quinn. Until next time.